Hi everybody, today we are going to begin our unit on volume and surface area. So our first lesson today will be all about the volume of rectangular prisms. You probably have talked about volume before, and you probably even know that to find volume, you simply take the length times the width times the height, and that will give you the volume of a rectangular prism. Now, volume applies to three-dimensional figures. That's why we have length, width, and height. There's three dimensions that we can use to measure. So a prism is a three-dimensional figure with two parallel bases that are congruent polygons. So this base is the exact same as this base. In a rectangular prism, the bases are congruent rectangles. So right in the name, it tells us what the bases are. Volume is the amount of space inside a three-dimensional figure. It is measured in cubic units, which can be written using abbreviations and an exponent, such as 3. So we might use units cubed or inches cubed. You can use, that little 3 up in the air, right? The exponent. So you can find the volume of a rectangular prism with whole number measurements by packing a prism with unit cubes. Decomposing, or taking apart, the prism tells you the number of cubes of a given size it will take to fill the prism. The volume of a rectangular prism is related to its dimensions, length, width, and height. So let's take a look at this prism here. This prism has a length of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a width of 3, 1, 2, 3, so going back, it's 3, and a height of 3, 1, 2, 3. So there is a total of 15 cubes that we would use in the base layers. So 15 on the bottom, right? 15 on the top. And then we have one row of 15 in the middle, which would then be 45. So if we were to take apart this cube or this prism, we would find 45 little cubes inside of it. So we simply can, instead of counting all the cubes, take the length times the width, which is 3, times the height, which is 3. 5 times 3 is 15, times 3 is 45. So that's how we find the volume of that prism. So let's take a look at another one here. I am on page 486. You can find the volume of a rectangular prism with these measurements, right? One way is to use unit cubes. You can layer them all out, count them all out. Oh, that's kind of lengthy. So the easiest way to do this is to use your volume formula, which says we're going to take the volume, the length times the width times the height. Now, another way that they did this here is finding the volume of each of the little cubes. Well, that's super lengthy as well. So we're going to use the formula. Length times width times height. So what we would do here is take the length, which is 2.5, times the width, which is 3, times the height, which is 1.5. When you do that, 2.5 times 3 times 1.5, you would get 11 1/4. Now, remember when we multiply mixed numbers here, you might want to change these into improper fractions. 3/2, right? And then multiply straight across. 5 times 3 times 3 is 45. 2 times 1 times 2 is 4. And then you can say 4 goes into 45 11 times, and you would have 1 left over. You could also have changed it into a decimal, but remember, if your question is in fraction form, we want the answer to be in fraction form as well. So when we're multiplying straight across, use the same things that we know about multiplying fractions. So here, let's take a look at our next one. Here we have an example, and we have a box of sugar cubes, 3.5 inches by 1.5 by 6. Now, once again, we can use the method of using unit cubes to find the entire volume, or we can simply use our formula. Using the formula is going to be a lot quicker. Now, another way to think about this is base times height. Well, base is the same as the length times the width. So finding the area of one of the rectangles, just remember it as length times width times height. It could also be this, but remember, these are the same things. So if we're using the formula, same thing still applies. 3.5 times 1.5 times 6. 3.5, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have 7 over 2 times 1 times 2 plus 1 is 3 halves times 6 over 1. And we multiply straight across. 7 times 3 is 21 times 6. That's 6 and 126. 2 times 2 times 1 is 4. And then we say, okay, 4 goes into 126 31 times, and we would be left with 2. 2/4 is the same as 1/2. So the volume of the box is 31.5 cubic inches. Now, you can use a calculator on this as well. Find the volume of this prism here. So you're going to go ahead and pause, and then you're going to solve for the volume here. All right, so if we were going to solve for the volume of this prism here, 15.1 times 3 times 5.5, you should get an answer of 249.15 inches cubed. Okay, now moving along to page 489. What if we know the volume, but not one of the dimensions? Maybe we're missing the length or the width, or in this case, the height. Now, because we know the formula for finding volume is length times width times height, we just plug in the values that we know. If we know that the volume is 60, I'm going to put 60 in here. If I know that we have 3 and 5, I'm going to put 3 and 5 here, and then we have h left over. Now simply, we need to get h by itself. How do we undo multiplication? Well, we divide. So we can combine like terms. 60 equals 3 times 5, which is 15h. Now to get h alone, I'm going to have to divide by 15 here. 15 cancels each other out, and all I would be left with is the h. 60 divided by 15 is then 4. So we know that the height is 4 feet. So that's what our missing dimension would be. We're working backwards through the problem to find that missing dimension. So let's take a look at example 2. Here we have the volume, 94.5 cubic inches, and we are missing the height. Once again, we plug in the values that we know. We're going to do 6 times 4.5 first to get 27h. Then I say, okay, well, we need to get h by itself, so we're going to divide by 27 on both sides. That cancels out those 27s. When we take 94.5 divided by 27, we would then find that the height is 3.5. So the height of this prism would be 3.5 inches. I'd like you to go ahead and try the check on your own here. So if we have 126 inches is our volume, and we know 7 and 7/8, and we know 2, and we're missing the height. First things first, 7 and 7/8 times 2. So work it out. So I can convert this to a fraction, right? So 7/8 is the same as 8.75. So I can say 7 and 7/8, whoopsies, would be 7.875 times 2 is 15.75. Then I have 126. Now remember, to get that by itself, we divide. by 15.75. When our answer should be 8. So the height is 8 inches. Now to double check our work, we can put it back into the problem. 8 times 2, so times 2 equals 16, times 7 and 7/8, which is 7.875, and we should get 126. We know that it works. All right, moving on to our apply problem. A movie theater sells 3 different size popcorn. If the boxes are rectangular prisms, which size of popcorn is the best buy? So what you need to do is find the volume of each one and then take the price and divide by that volume to figure out what is the price per inch. So you want to find the best value here. So multiple steps. First, find volume. So find the volume. Second step is cost per cubic inch. Okay, so 2 steps to that. When you find the correct answer, please email it to me so that I know that you've completed it. And if you have any questions, please ask. Your homework is online. It's on your McGraw-Hill lesson 9-1. And let me know if you need any help. Have a great day.